She says,
I did take notes. So I brought them.
You did listen to
there's a
it.
famous song that says, Jesus, take the wheel. Today, Cassidy is taking the wheel of the podcast, not of your life.
Jesus. Yeah, I was like,
She's taking the wheel of the podcast. That's all.
great.
You got it.
All right, take it away, ma'am.
Well, welcome back to the In Between podcast. Today we have a special guest, as you heard, the one and only Senior Associate Pastor.
There you go. I
Senior
guess that's it.
Associate
That's
Pastor
it.
Dwight Martin.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, he is-
Special guest this morning,
Yes.
this afternoon,
Yes.
whenever you're watching or listening.
Yes.
Yeah, it is later in the week. Again, it's still in between Sundays.
That's
so
right.
We are here, and we're glad you're here.
Thank
So,
you. Honored.
you.
Honored to join the podcast today.
Yeah.
Completely honored to do that.
Yeah, so we're talking about Calibrate Part 4, which
Yep.
was all about the heart and what flows in the heart, and how Jesus cares more about what your heart looks like than what is coming out of your body. So tell us about that.
Man, there's so much like scripture in relation to the heart, right? And trying to figure out where the Lord would have me take this. And so I found myself going to that conversation that Jesus has with these religious leaders that are constantly trying to back him into a corner, and Jesus basically says, no, I'm about to give you a truth bomb right here, right? They're so concerned and so legalistic on, calling the disciples out. It's like, hey, maybe you're not aware that they are unclean because they're not washing their hands. And it wasn't a physical washing of the hands. It was like they were ceremonially unclean. And Jesus says, you're so concerned with what's on the outside, but we need to really go down to the heart, right? Mm-hmm. What comes out of the heart is in the mouth. What comes out of the heart is the root of the entire thing. So it's just a really cool conversation that I try to read in between the lines sometimes, and what happens between those moments when Jesus kind of says that, and like, do the Pharisees look at each other and like, oh, we just got told,
Yeah.
or
Do you think they got it immediately? Or like,
as stubborn as they were,
Yeah.
probably not. They probably went home and
offended.
try to, absolutely, try to look back and see, oh, he said this, and next time we meet him, like that was their whole heart.
Always trying to catch him. Always
Yeah.
trying to. Always. We're gonna catch him in this. He's gonna break a law by this, but they were always in the process of trying to catch Jesus, and he's messed up, or he's not perfect, right? They wanted to diminish him or disqualify him in a sense, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah.
And then that the truth is, so many people even today try to do that, right? Like we didn't even talk about that, but there's so many legalistic mindsets, and even trying to discredit who God is, and he wasn't really God, right? He couldn't have done that, or he couldn't have done this, and it's just some things just never change, right? The Bible even talks about it. Says there's nothing new under the sun, right? So it really comes down to the heart and where our heart is, right? And Jesus, that's why he came. He didn't come for behavior modification. Right. He came for heart change. Yeah. He's like, hey, I know you're telling me this, but in reality, I need to get behind that, and I need to go to the heart, right? And I mean the paralytic, right? Which is easier to do? Which is easier to say? Is it easier for me to tell him to get up, or your sins are forgiven? Where did Jesus go first? He didn't go to the physical miracle. He went to the spiritual, which, by the way, that is the greatest miracle that we'll ever see on this side of heaven. It's amazing, right? Some of the incredible things that God does still to this day. I've heard stories of like miracles, like physical healings of people, and like they were in a really hard season in their life and their health. Their health was falling apart. God intervened, and they were saved, and those are incredible. But when you think about the reality of like salvation, when it takes place in someone's life, that is the best. I mean, you people are heading to a road of destruction and hell forever, and God intervenes and changes us from the inside out, and it's like, that is the greatest miracle that we could see, right? Salvation.
You say inside out, and I love that, because dealing with the heart. I think too many times growing up in church in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s, we focused too much on the outward, the outward man. And we were judging. We were, like, oh, they gotta change their haircut. They gotta change what they wear to come. So that was kind of, in a sense, the behavior modification, and not dealing with the heart of the issue, right? And so, man, begin to recognize that and sense that, and like move away from that, because I was like, man, this is not what Christ had in mind when he's come. He comes to heal the sick, right? Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about sick on the outside. We're talking about sick in the heart, the sinful heart. And so that was good, because I love the focus, that you drew us in on Sunday on the heart, where sin lies and where things, come from, So I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
So.
I loved your analogy of like the surgeon talking to someone who has a physical heart issue, and the person was just like, she's like, well, you need to exercise so that we can get your heart right.
Right.
But I can't exercise until give me a better heart, and then I'll exercise it. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
I thought that was really.
The Lord takes us to uncomfortable places at times, because and that's the one thing I love, is that he refuses to leave us where we are, right? He doesn't want us to be just, everything is comfortable. Like there's the expectation, which is amazing in and of itself, right? That we are to be holy, like he is holy. And that is so complex in and itself, like, because we'll never reach holiness. So why did he say that? Why did he throw that out there, like in passing? Oh, just be holy like I am holy. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean by that? Right? And I think that's the part where so many of us get so comfortable in, I'll never reach, holiness, so I might as well not try. It's like, and I do this in premarital counseling a lot of times. It's like, what does it really mean to pursue Christ? And that's the expectation, and it's the analogy of a bullseye, right? Like you have the 10 as being the mark, right? And then you've got the 9, 8, 7, and sometimes we wake up and we're like, oh, you know what? I didn't do too bad. I got a 6 today. We should never be content with a 6. We should always be striving, even though I may not always hit it. That's what I am aiming to, right? So that's the aim, And I do fall short every day, but that doesn't mean I don't quit trying.
Yeah, it's the Matthew 22, 37, 38, love the Lord God with all your heart.
Your heart.
So, okay, we know that is truly spiritually impossible, right? It truly is. But that doesn't stop me. I want God to have every bit of my heart. So that is the goal. That is the goal. I'm never going to, on this side of heaven, love him perfectly. I'm not, but I want to. And so it does not, I want to love him today with more of my heart. I don't want to give this part of my heart to God. I want all of it to belong to him.
Yeah.
But you cannot go through a day perfectly in saying that. But that's why it's good to address the heart. Like, what is going on? Because, here it is. Because in your preaching, Caesar, that's where, wait a minute. That's a part of the heart I've given away to something that I shouldn't, and that it doesn't belong to God. And so I thought that was really good. That was the challenging part, I thought, from your message.
I've been reflecting on that question. And by the way, whenever you hear me express a question or share one, like that's one that I've already been navigating through. So I'm a little bit ahead of the game in that way, that I've been dealing with it. Well, it doesn't go away. Like all this week, I've been asking myself the question, how is my heart? And that was one of the things that I left with all of our listeners, with our church. How is your heart? There are issues of the heart, and I gave 4, right? So we talked about greed, we talked about guilt, we talked about anger, and we talked about jealousy, right? And so the purpose of this podcast is to keep this conversation going and to really remind ourselves that what the Lord taught us or impressed on our hearts about on Sunday, that it's beginning to really be applied into our lives. So I just, I have to wonder, like, how many of us had a conversation with our spouses? Because I said, if you want to know what area it is that the Lord needs to deal with you about in your own heart, ask those that are closest to you.
That's good.
And to be honest, my wife and I had a discussion on Sunday, and we talked about it, right?
That's good.
So I'm just curious, like, how is your heart when it comes to those 4 areas? Has there been a conversation moment in this week? And if there hasn't been, it is not too late. It's not too, it's not about avoiding, that's the one thing that the enemy is so good. It's just, don't worry about it. It's all good. They'll get it worked out. You'll eventually figure it out. Or, and as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, it's that boiling water and the back burner. Eventually it explodes, right? So we've got to be willing to address this, and that's part of what God is trying to bring out of us and really bring to light, right? Versus just leaving us in our messed up way of thinking sometimes.
You meant the anger part. That's the one I think we battle with, right? A lot. More so than we probably want to admit, because there's things that I'm not necessarily like super angry, at someone, but if I'm holding, grudge, someone did me wrong, and so there's bitterness, there's resentment toward that person, and in a sense I'm angry, and so the verse that I have to speak to myself, right? When something comes up, a thought comes up, and I go back there with my mind for a second, someone that hurt me, is the Ephesians 4:32. And I think it's interesting because it brings in the heart into it. It says, be ye kind, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. It's like tender-hearted. Well, my heart needs to be tender and not boiled up with animosity, bitterness, resentment towards someone else, but help it to be tender so it'll hear from God so that he can deal with those things. You know what I'm saying? So, but when it's all, I'm bitter, I'm all balled up with that stuff, then I'm not responding to what God's doing in my heart. So.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. And I even talked about a little bit of that. Is like, man, you're so bound up. And when we really let go that's when we begin to experience the freedom that Christ wants us to have. He doesn't want us to be chained up in all of that anger and all of that greed and all of that guilt. We could spend a whole week or a whole sermon series on just those 4 things, guilt and greed and jealousy, right? Like,
I think that's more, again, one of those that's more of a struggle in our life than we would want to admit.
Yeah.
Right?
The comparison, right?
Yes.
The comparison, and
well, especially with, again, my job is social media, so I know that there's good parts of it, but it's also like I see it with the students that I work with. I see it with my own generation of just like everybody's putting their best highlight reel on the internet, and so you're comparing your behind the scenes to everybody else's highlight reel, and it's like
to something that may not even be
that's
true.
not even true, right? And so everybody's just getting more and more sad and lonely and depressed because they're comparing what these adventures and all these things that other people are going on, and they're jealous of those things without realizing, like, celebrating their own what's going on in their own lives. And all that.
That was that's the way to really defeat jealousy, if you will, or battle against jealousy. It's and I know it was maybe like a trick question, like, hey, you may know what to do when you are greedy. It's you give more, right? You may know what to do when you are anger, and that is, you just forgive, right? When you are guilty is you confess.
Right.
But when it comes to jealousy, that's one that is like, if I'm jealous, what do I do? And I said, get in the person's car. Ask them for a ride. You've been jealous of that car they have? Poor Frank, he's just enjoying his car. You're over there just so jealous of him, It's like, ask him for a ride. Ask him how his promotion went, right? Ask him how, celebrate with other people. Like, we are so quick to just, and it's an issue, again, it's an issue of the heart, right? We may not say those things. And that's why I think, like, heard a great series one time, and I think it was titled like Self Detox or Soul Detox or something like that. Like we have to, if there's anything we can do, is like know yourself really well. And here's why: because the enemy knows us really well.
That's good.
And so you've got to figure out a way to go around, right, what he is trying to outsmart him. He knows what makes you tick and what ticks you off. He knows what makes you blow up. He knows your tendencies, your wiring, right? And so if we know that about ourselves, then we can be ahead of the game. We say, okay, I know that that's where the enemy strikes. I know that that's where, and that's just part of just recognizing those emotions, right? When you see him coming, do you immediately go, oh, I can't stand, right? May not say that out loud, but in your heart is there. And that's the root, which is then going to lead you to make the wrong decisions, to say the wrong things, right? So that's the root of it all, right? And you got to guard. Guard, the Bible talks about guard your heart, guard your heart
with all diligence.
Come on,
out of it come the issues of life, right? And so and I think too. So the selfishness, or self-seeking, or I'm always about things being for me, and so I have to have my way, or things have to go my way, and so that's a very self-seeking attitude. And I think one of the greatest sins that we as mankind battle with here on this earth is selfishness. Selfishness and pride. And so it's like, man, today it's got to be about me. The work, it's got to go my way, and if it doesn't go my way, I'm upset or I'm thrown off or whatever. And I think that's the struggle too in the heart. I think that's the core of a lot of our issues. So that's why, again, going back to, hey, this sermon series, you addressing things like that, because I need to be challenged. I always tell you this, is I need to be challenged in those areas, because those are areas sometimes I can succumb to, and I don't want to, but man, I'm looking out for self. But I know when I'm saying this, I know there's other people, they may not admit it, but that's the truth in their life too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If we're not careful, all these things can lodge in there for a long time.
Yeah.
And then that's what drives us to become who we are. It's like, no, that's not who God has created you to be. You got to address those things, be aware of those things, make the changes, have the tough conversations, ask the tough questions. There's accountability in all of that. And there's freedom in all of that. I mean, there's a common saying, right? Get it off your chest.
Right.
Okay. Get it off your heart.
Yeah, seriously.
Get it off your heart. Yeah. That doesn't need to be in there. No. Those things that are not pleasing to the Lord, exactly what those are. And that's just 4 of the ones that I just mentioned. There's so many other things.
Because David said, I'm sorry, Cass, he's, talking about getting off your heart. David said, when he sinned, it's like, purge me, cleanse me.
Right.
But
search me, O God.
Search me, O God.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just outward thing, cleansing that he was wanting an inward cleansing, of the heart and everything. So.
Yeah. Was there a particular reason you chose to wait until the 4th week to talk about the heart, or just? I mean,
again, just kind of going down through the physical body, No, it really comes down to just I knew I needed to talk about the heart, right? It was going to be really easy to talk about the physical things that we can see, the eyes and the mouth and the ears and the hands, the feet, and all that. But I knew that this was going to be a very impactful week, because this is one that we can hide, that we're so careful to protect, right? Yeah. We don't want to. You don't want to, we hear that all the time, we don't want to give people our hearts, right? We want to guard our hearts and all of that. So there's an element of just really a big emphasis. So I knew I wanted to talk about it. And when it landed. And here we go. This week, it's you kind of gave a little bit of a teaser in the importance of others and, being others oriented. And so it's all about the mouth. This coming week, which is already what is the common saying? Man, I stuck my foot in my mouth, or gosh, I wish I hadn't said that, or you
can't take back those words.
Yeah, there's and the main question behind this entire series is, how do I honor God with my body?
Yeah,
right.
Good.
So it's more than just the health stuff. It's more than just the extremes. It's more than just. It's how do I? If the Lord says that my body is a temple. What does that really mean, right? So that's what we're going to talk about specifically this coming Sunday, is how do I honor the Lord with my mouth, right? Or as the Bible calls it, with my tongue.
Right.
James talks about it being a fire, right?
Yeah.
Paul talks about it from a different perspective that you can build, right? So I don't want to give it away too much. but it's close to my heart. And what I'm talking about this Sunday, I've been living it already. This morning, just to be totally honest, I had an incident at home and it was really hard. It was tough. And I had to deal with something with one of my kids. And I'm living this sermon that I'm getting ready to preach. And so I'm going, what is the best way for me to handle this situation? What are the things that I can say in this moment to build him up rather than to tear him down? There's already enough guilt there for what happened, right? So now what is my role in this? So
since you're saying that, you've heard this before, there's balcony people and there's basement people, right? And the balcony people, let's start with the basement people. They're always tearing you down, right? And pulling you down. And they're saying things that are very negative. They're saying things that are not true. It's not good. What they're saying to you is unhealthy. It's not good. And so you feel discouraged. You feel beat down and all that stuff. And then there's the balcony people, and those are the people. It's like, man, when you're down, they're lifting you up. They're encouraging. So what they're saying and the words they're saying, their tongue is very important, and they care about it. They're thinking about it. Well, how can that speak encouragement into a person's life? How can that speak truth? How can I challenge and exhort them to something better? But they're lifting them up. And I was like, man, I always want to be a balcony person.
Dude,
I want to bring
awesome,
people up. I heard that before, and
I've never heard that.
You never had
first time right
someone,
here.
Yeah,
That's
I think someone.
That'll preach right there.
Well, I did. I preached it once.
and what happens in a
It's
basement?
actually his own sermon
I don't
illustration.
know if it went over too good.
Like a basement is cold. It's dark.
You could.
I mean, you could go all kinds.
Well, you did.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm saying.
balconies, like you get freedom and air and freshness.
Yeah.
There you go. Something there.
That's for free right there from
Yeah.
Mr. Dwight Martin. I knew it was going to be good today.
But you said something. I was like, okay,
Are you a basement or are you a balcony?
I don't want to be. I want to be a balcony person.
That's right,
I really
man.
do,
I
so.
love that. That may come out on Sunday. Watch out.
There you go. You heard it here first.
In between.
Yes.
That's right.
So we didn't have any questions from the congregation this week about the message specifically, but we did get a general question.
Yeah.
And so I think what the plan is for that is we're going to start compiling. If you have any general questions that you want to hear from Pastor Caesar, maybe Pastor Dwight, maybe anyone on staff, we might, who knows, we might pull someone up. We can compile those and we'll do like a separate podcast here in the next few weeks or months.
We did
Who
a
knows?
similar thing to that a couple of months back, or it was during the summer, where we basically let everyone from the church ask all these questions, and then we try to address as many of them as we could. We talked about all kinds of stuff.
Did. Yeah. It won't be a 5-week series, but if you have any just general questions that you want to get answered from our pastors extraordinaire, let us know. We can put them on those polls.
And they can always reach out to us at Info Dallas. But listen, we never want time to be wasted. And so if there's something that is pressing and you need an answer, in fact, I had a question this past week from one of our partners who just emailed me directly, and we were able to work through that. So,
great.
If you have a question and you need an immediate answer, please know info@dallasbaychurch.com, or you can always email us directly.
Yeah.
But we're always looking for topics and discussion points here. So we'd love to get that out. That's great.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah, just send them to us. And then this Sunday, if you hear something in the message that speaks to you and you want to know more about it, maybe you want to know more about balconies and basements, just submit that poll, put it on the direct message us, any of those things, our website. We'd be happy to get those answered for you. You guys have anything else to add for this week?
Thank you. Hope you have a great week. And again, watch that heart, guard it, have those discussions. And thank you so much for tuning in. And my friend, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good week, guys.